to Death and Disco. This is the podcast where we explore how embracing death can actually lead to a more meaningful and magical and radically alive life. Today, I am bringing on my OG client, Amy Gabrielle. She and I have known each other since, I think it's been 4 years now. I met her shortly after her husband, Stephen, passed away, and she joined me on my very first Widows retreat. And then we became long-term friends as well as clients. So I'm celebrating her today because she recently just published her new memoir, Widow in the City, a memoir of heartbreaks and hookups. And at the time of this recording, she was about 2 weeks before publishing the book, and now it is out. The interview today kind of outlines her story and what made her bring this book to life. But her memoir is really about her grief journey of losing her husband, Stephen, after caretaking for him for 3 years at the age of 54, and then caring for her neurodivergent son alone. And how Amy kind of found this unexpected sensual reawakening through her grief. And I'm talking taking lingerie photos, posting them online. She was also exploring dating apps and casual hookups, just this whole awakening of sexuality. And so the book really explores how that journey kind of around sex and dating and midlife female desire, how this book really challenges the taboos and the misunderstandings that society poses around these topics, and how it just is this beautiful permission slip for anyone going through grief to know that there is no right or wrong way to do grief. And Amy has really discovered her true self through this process. Now she's on Substack. She's a writer. She's a feminist. I would say she's a visionary, and really leading the way in a lot of the topics that are challenging the collective for us right now. So I hope that you enjoy this hot and steamy episode that challenges a lot of cultural norms and taboos around sexuality and midlife and what it means to be a woman too. So I hope you enjoy this episode, and I'll leave it at that. Welcome, Amy. How are you?
I am amazing. Thank you.
Yes, I love it. So Amy is a widow as well. She's a widow sister. She's also a writer, a digital creator, and advocate for authentic self-expression in midlife women. She has a Substack called Absolute Pleasure, as well as Medium publications, including the Memoirist and Slackjaw. She lives in New York City, where she enjoys photography, travel, and raising her son. And today we're going to be talking about her new book, Widow in the City. Ow, ow, ow! Yes! Oh my God.
I know. I cannot believe it.
Can you tell us just a little bit about your story? Kind of just what happened? How did your world fall apart? And how did you end up here today, now the author of a memoir that is receiving amazing press? And how, just take us along the journey for a moment.
Okay. So I'm going to just go back to 2018. And my husband was diagnosed with cancer. And he already had metastasis at the time. So he was given 3 to 5 years to live. And then COVID happened, right? So he, was just doing chemo, and that kind of became our life. And then COVID happened. And we sort of we were living in New York. So I said, let's just rent a house someplace like Connecticut. And there was no summer camps or anything. So we did that for a summer, rented a house with a pool and all that. And that's what I feel like. I just kind of went off the grid, sort of, in terms of real life. I think everybody stopped showing up in person, and then maybe went back to life. And I just kind of didn't, because in 2021, in August, a year later, he died. So it was just kind of, I don't know, I knew he was going to die. This is the weirdest thing, because people say, oh, but there's a perception that you know, and so it that like lessens the blow, but
Mhm.
you I don't know, there's like no processing it. Like, how could you know what it would be like without this person while they're still here? Like, you can kind of imagine it, and I think I emotionally distanced myself from him because I was afraid that if I leaned into love more, that it would hurt more. And
Mm.
so I just, yeah, kind of dissociated, and he died. I sold our apartment. We moved like 2 miles south, but in New York, it's you're in a different neighborhood. It's almost like living in a different city. I All of
Mm.
our friends were couples with children. I didn't want to be part of that anymore because I
Right.
was the outcast. And so, my son was 9. It's weird, right? Because I it's like our son, and then it became my son.
Mhm.
And he was 9 years old. He is on the autism
Tough
spectrum.
age.
Yeah, but it was just, I don't know. I told myself I have a year. I really deluded myself. I didn't know at the time, and I don't know if this is a bad thing, but I'm like, a year of firsts. I'll get through the first birthday without him, the first Christmas, the first all of that, and then I'll meet somebody and I'll get remarried, and my son will have a father, and I'll keep my job. I had regular day job, and I sort of fell down like the rabbit hole of internet dating. And I think I was just really, it was a part of me that I hadn't really expressed within my marriage. Um, when we met, we were both 40. We had a child pretty much right away, and we were mommy and daddy, right? And it's like, we didn't look at each other so much as like sexual beings. We're just like, we're parents and we have a child
Right.
with special needs. So
Yeah.
that's what it is. And then 10 years later, he's dead, and I'm on these dating apps. And yeah, it just got sexual, like even the talk very quickly. I was out of practice and in this headspace of I'm just going to take a year to be crazy, and then I'll go
Yeah.
back to being normal. And like I did weird, I don't know if I can curse, but I did weird
Yes.
in terms of like I wanted to buy a new winter coat. And like something that he wouldn't have wanted me to buy necessarily, but I'm like, oh well, I can do what I want. So I'm like, $1,000 for a coat, like ridiculous, stupid things that I said, do whatever. And so I like leaned into like dirty talk. I guess the thing to remember too is that when I met him, it was right before like texting really became like such a big thing. And we met in 2007.
Mhm.
And so I really wasn't familiar with like a lot of, I mean, I know LOL and all of that, but I wasn't, there's like, I don't know. I would read things and not really understand that they weren't I don't know. Like I interpreted it in a way that probably was not meant to be or something. Like there's a false sense of familiarity that I didn't really understand. And so I would have some of these relationships would be like over a couple of years even that with men that like they became friends almost
Mhm.
or like you're just dirty talk or whatever, but like I never met them. But then there were the men that I did meet, and
Mhm.
uh, yeah, I mean, I guess maybe also say that I was 54 when my husband died. He was 53. So we met later in life. I had a son at 44, so he was 9 years old, and I'm just like, oh, these young guys like me. I can do whatever I want, and so it was pictures. I took nude pictures of myself. That was another thing that's also in the book is that my husband was worked in technology. So I kind of let him do all the technology stuff. And when we first met, the iPhone had just come out, and he was like, well, we're not getting that. He died a month later. I'm like, I'm getting myself an iPhone. When I saw it, I'm like, it can take amazing pictures. Oh my God. Got myself a tripod. I got how can I capture myself further away?
Mhm.
Oh, remote, clicker so I can pose and do all these things. And I really saw myself also as like an artist. I'm like, women's
Mhm.
bodies are beautiful, and I felt beautiful, and I wanted others to see me as beautiful. I didn't really think about that. Like the one person who saw me, who knew me in my life, was my husband, and he's gone. And all of a sudden, it's
Yeah.
like maybe there's a part of me that's like, do I even exist anymore?
Yeah.
You
Mm.
know,
Mm.
um,
Yeah.
and so so it was kind of a lot of crazy, taking weird chances. I told myself that I took calculated risks. Um, and so I kind of turned into like an internet sleuth. And I would, it's weird. Like men, I don't know what they're thinking, but they don't come out and say, "Oh, my last name is whatever." But I, would get their phone numbers, and then I do a whole like background thing to see like who the
Mhm.
hell are these people. Um, and so I felt like, oh, if I know who they are, I tell a friend like if I don't show up to our like meetup or whatever, like come and look for me, send the police or whatever. But I really didn't think like anything was going to happen to me, and
Yeah.
nothing did. But yeah, I look back, and it's almost like looking at another person. Like,
Yeah.
who was
Mhm.
that
Yeah.
person who did those things, um, and bought all that lingerie? I mean,
Yeah,
yeah.
totally. I really, really resonate with your story in so many ways, like same but different. And what's coming up for me right now is, Nora McInerney, her book, Hot Young Widows. I think I remember reading that early on, and she said, like, the way that we respond to grief is just so uniquely different. The way that we cope with it. Some people are going to go on massive shopping sprees, and like you said, like spending $1,000 on like,
No.
yeah, and like buying the iPhone and stuff, and so like whatever way you find yourself processing it, it's all okay. But I also really, for you, it was, I really resonate with what you said about like, do I even exist anymore? And yeah, because it's like no one is there to see you and to reflect back your beauty and your love and even like you. So yeah, I guess can you take us into like, well, first of all, also because I know that what it's like to feel like totally dissociated and then looking back on that person being like, who was that person? But
Right.
if you can go back to that time and just
Mhm.
like, what were you thinking and feeling in terms of like wanting to put lingerie on and photograph yourself? And what need was that filling in you a little bit more?
Ooh. It was twofold. So I think one, it gave me an excuse to get up and dressed and
Hmm.
showered
Yeah.
and looking, presentable. I took a leave from work, and even if I was working, we were still remote. We weren't back in the office. So I think it was partly that, like a routine. But instead of getting into clothes, I would just get into lingerie. And I I wanted to. I don't know. I just felt so free.
Yeah.
So anything could happen. That
Hmm.
like I could have fun. I could have fun and see myself in a way that no one had ever seen me. I almost felt like I was living
Yeah.
a double life.
Yes.
Like my old life people would not know that this Amy was going to have a man come over and like have sex with her in the afternoon, right?
Yeah.
Like that, like that is like a secret, like
Yeah,
a secret life that I
totally.
had, and it was just for me.
I totally get that. It's like, it's because the life that you're in like sucks. It's horrible, right? Like no one wants to be in
Mhm,
your situation. And I'm saying that because I feel the same way too. It's like after your husband dies and that whole like white picket fence life is just blown up, right? It's like, I don't want to be
mhm,
here. I don't want to be in this. So it's like almost creating this other identity. And like, you know, and you kind of did that with like Manhattan MILF,
mhm,
NYC. And like I did that with my business, right? We like funnel it. It's
mhm,
like the same thing, but just like different facades almost. And it's kind of a way of
mhm.
like escaping our reality.
Yeah, it was definitely escaping reality and also like touching back to parts of myself from before I was married, and
Ooh,
even
yeah.
parts of myself from like my 20s or um, when I was in my 20s, I wasn't, I don't know, I just was more shy sort of and insecure and yeah, like not knowing like who was I going to be. Like you remember like
Mhm.
being in when you met Ian, like very, you were
Very
very young.
young. Yeah, 18.
But still, it's like, who will I marry? Who will children? Like, what's my whole life going to be ahead? And my mid 50s, it was like, oh, what are the things that didn't happen that I wanted to happen? Oh, I wanted to be a photographer. Okay, the technology is like amazing now, where I have this phone and I can, you know, uh, do this. And then I thought, oh, well, who can I show these photos to? Oh, there's Instagram. That can be
Mhm.
my online gallery instead of like making my own website, which I don't know how to do, or I didn't know. Now I do have my own website. Um, and yeah, just like the learning. And I think one of the things that's really important in grief that helps is to be creative
I
and
totally agree.
to create. And it doesn't necessarily matter what you're creating. It can be art, it can be music, it can be a new program,
Mhm.
even your life, right? You're creating a new life, and that's moving forward in some way when you can't see like a foot in front of you, right? Like you just have
Right.
to hope that invisible like board is going to show up and you're going to land on it, right? But you don't
Yeah.
know what it is.
Totally. And it's part of the cycle of death and rebirth. And I think what you're speaking to in terms of the creative process is the alchemy, right? Like as here you are, like, and I just want to paint the picture for our audience because can you just tell me a little bit about like the job that you were in, like the life that you were living and how, like, as you were shedding that skin and stepping into like reclamation of your sexuality and your creativity, like it's such a stark contrast, really. Um,
Yeah, so yeah, I mean, I leaned in hard to that like marriage, right? Like that was my best friend. We did everything together. We had a son. Then, I did a mommy's group, right? So I had all the mom friends. And, I had like a couple of old friends from like college that I, would see, they were still in my life, but like really my day to day life was going to my job. I worked at Columbia University. I worked in finance and budgets. Yeah, I mean that was it. Work like office job, even though it was on a university campus. And I will say that the one thing that I wasn't traditional about is that cooking. Like, my husband, he was the one he loved cooking. Like when we first met, it was like Top Chef. He got me into Top Chef and all that stuff. But I mean, everything else. I
Yeah.
mean, I did laundry and it just mommy and me.
Totally.
Music classes and all that stuff, right?
Oh my God, totally. And it's just, I just really wanted to like paint that image for our audience because it's like, here you are, like Columbia University, like finance, job, picture perfect family. I'm like the good wife, like that image of the good wife, right? And then like your husband dies and boom, it's like lingerie, like,
Right. Yeah.
full on, like it goes from like mom to MILF. And I
Yes.
remember meeting you, Amy, and you telling me about this like vision that you had and showing me the Instagram account that you had started. And you were so like nervous, but I resonated so deeply with what you were going through because yeah, like once it's like all the guardrails just fall off. Like
Right.
it's like the all of everything you thought your life should look like and who you were, that character in that life, it's over. It's demolished. And you're just like grasping for
Right.
who am I now? And what is
Right.
this next chapter going to look like? So
Yeah. And
yeah.
there is a part of it that's like, oh, nothing lasts forever. Like it's this knowing that I think in theory we understand, but when it happens, it's like, oh, okay, like really anything could happen. And like the worst thing already happened. So yeah, let's just, no consequences. Let's just, do
Totally.
what feels good to me. And even in that, sometimes it didn't feel good in that it was like I felt myself wanting this emotional connection.
Mm,
It was, linked with sex um, and I kind of gotten a pattern of like pulling people close to me, pushing them away. You're going,
mhm,
and
mhm,
I never thought of it as I was hurting anyone or they were hurting me necessarily. It was just like I just felt like I would die if somebody else left me. I was like,
mhm,
one more
mhm.
loss was going to put me over the edge. And
Right.
I didn't think that like consciously, but I think my behavior was like that. And um, I felt needy in a way that surprised me because I always thought of myself as kind of like a bad bitch. I live in New York and all that. Um, and so like the vulnerability was a surprise to
Mhm,
me. I mean, it
mhm,
makes sense looking back. Um, but I felt almost like I had a sign on me, like handle with care. And and there were people who didn't. I mean, handle with care emotionally. Um, and yeah, I think it's also like having I don't know, like a wound that is invisible. And
mhm.
it's almost you want to make it visible so that people will see that you're hurt.
Absolutely. Well, and I the pictures that you took were very like like it didn't scream wound to me. It was more like
Yeah.
empowered, like
Hmm.
feminine sexual empowerment. And I know that
Yeah.
that's true for you, right? So I could see how a man might receive that and think maybe I don't need to be so careful and,
Right.
because she's just out here for like sex and whatnot. But like
Hmm.
yeah, beneath that, you're like, I'm really fragile right now. So, how did you
Right.
navigate that for yourself, like dating men? And when did you start to realize that, like, maybe this strategy wasn't serving you as much anymore? And what did you do to shift that?
Oh yeah. I think I started to feel like I was ready to get back on the trajectory of being married and
Mhm.
husband centered and um child centered. And I was like, okay, like that was fun. And like let's move into this new thing. I mean, I can bring some of this fun, sexy stuff with me, but let's get back. And I was not perceived. The men that I chose uh, were not going to fit that bill. And I
Right.
think subconsciously I did that because I really wasn't ready to, I didn't understand yet that there was no going back to my old life or
Mhm.
some semblance of it. And that something was new, but I didn't know what it was going to be yet. And that was really scary. And so there was one man that I got close to, and I I felt like our kids met, and but it wasn't what I thought it was. It was almost like, I was saying with the text messages, like there was a wire crossed somewhere, and I then began to doubt myself, like, oh, am I safe with anybody? Like, because I thought that I was like on my way to something with this person, and it turns out no, not at all. And it's like, am I blind? Like, I used to be so together, and so I really just pulled back, and I pulled back into myself, and that's when I started writing. And
Okay.
I took a writing class, and it was a year long, like once a month class. And I don't know, started a Substack, and I started writing chapters of what had happened, kind of to like make sense. Like, what the hell just happened? Like, why am I here devastated? Like, I'm almost more devastated by this like situationship ending than my husband dying. And there was a
Yeah.
lot of guilt that I felt because of that.
Mhm.
Like, what kind of person am I to, um, but it was kind of a springboard, like the grief over losing this future I thought I was going to have with this new man.
Mhm.
Um, it was just like, oh, well, that just opened up, all kinds of grief. And I talk about like this grief tsunami that was just like wave after wave. And writing helped kind of organize that,
Yeah.
what had happened for me. And people liked what I wrote. Like, I, started to get some like really enthusiastic, subscribers. I think I have like almost 2,000 subscribers now. And I didn't start with anything. My
Yeah.
Instagram is like 14,000 again. It's like a mid woman in her mid 50s, like, loses husband, and decides she's going to recreate herself from the ground up, basically. And
I mean,
um,
it's a big deal.
and yeah, and so I finished, the first draft. It was almost like I hit a wall with my. I didn't know it was a manuscript. I mean, and I decided that I would send it to people to see what it. And somebody recommended a developmental edit, right? And so that's like hiring a real editor. Like, I've never had an editor
Mhm.
in my life. Um,
Mhm.
and with that person's help, I developed it into like this book that could be published. And yeah, and it's just kind of, it's been called raw. I don't, in that, like, there's a lot of sex in the book. I'm not,
Yeah, the
like, why am
opening
I
scene
doing
is like,
something
"All
that,
right, here we go."
I mean, it's not, I'll put it this way, it's not for everyone. I've had some people read it who said that they blushed. I had one person read it, and that wrote a review, and was like, she said, I'm not going to write a review because it seems like she just wanted attention. Um
Mm,
and I thought about that, and I'm like, okay. I mean, in a way, I'm glad that she didn't write anything bad,
mhm.
but I'm like, well, why wouldn't I want attention? Like, my
Yeah.
husband died. The person who like saw me, the person who like, who I saw their eyes light up when I walked
Right.
into a room, like, that person is gone. And so, yeah, I wanted that. I wanted to be seen in the
Yes.
pictures, in the writing, and so, yeah, it's like I did make it kind of. I wrote the truth, but it was also tittillating. I didn't have to. right. I wasn't
Yeah,
going to
like,
make
I
it.
think it's kind of funny, like, she says it's like, you don't, that it sounds like she'd reduced it to that, whereas it's like, no,
Right.
actually, being seen in your grief is one of the most healing
Right.
exercises that you can go through, and what she also failed to see with that is that, like, by you sharing your story authentically and vulnerably and titillating and however it was true
Yeah.
to you, someone else is being seen in theirs, and that's the beauty of it, right? Like,
Right.
I'm so glad you didn't filter it down. And I do just want to use some of the words. I have the reviews up here.
Oh,
Reviews describe it as an unfiltered look at rebuilding life, dating, and exploring desire while managing loss. Unflinching, provocative, and uncomfortable at times. I love it. Yeah, I wish I had. I need to. I'll in her raw witty debut, Gabrielle debuts or details her recovery of desire, identity, and love after devastating loss. Like the reviews have been so great, Amy, and I'm just so excited for you because talk about just being so incredibly vulnerable. Like sexuality alone is so vulnerable. Sexuality at midlife is even more, right? And like
yeah.
you, I think there's something to be said for like hitting rock bottom and having no more fears, having no more fucks to give
Yeah.
because you're like, I'm already there. I have the only place I can go is up. And you did that with like starting to post your photos and to grow your Instagram to 14,000 people to what it is today. And then, I just want to reflect on like the evolution, the death and rebirth as you even do that. It's like you kind of were in that era of photography and sexuality and then you were like, that's not feeling as aligned. So you venture into writing and that was kind of like the next phase. And you have a Substack of 2,000 people. And I'm wondering too if you can just share a little bit about how now a lot of your work is kind of, it seems to be focused on like feminism and the collective and patriarchy. And so, how have those themes started to emerge um, along this like mythic
Yeah.
storyline of your life?
Yeah. So I grew up in New York. My mom was, feminist, ERA, all of the things. And, I kind of let that go when I got married. It wasn't that like it wasn't the focus anymore, right? Like it was my husband, my new family. And then that whole thing of like trying to draw attention and it was almost like I felt like I needed a man to step in and right like I didn't know where I was going, so I wanted to go back, and then I realized
Mhm.
I couldn't go back to that old life. And the next thing was just like to, I guess, lean even harder into being self sufficient, into being reclaiming my own body. The more the outside was telling me that I should hide, we don't want to see older women, we don't want women to have rights over their bodies, all those things.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
just came in like harder that no, that's the thing I want to fight for.
Right.
And I think also learning about the history of America in the 70s and 80s is very different than now. And
Mhm.
I really wanted to learn more about like, what does it mean to be non-binary, right? Like that, my son was, learning all of these things. They were normal to him. They were all, and I thought that's fantastic. Um, I want to use the right language. I want to feel like I am, part of today's culture and really be very, I think, accepting of everybody's differences. Um, and yeah, so I mean, yeah, I took a dive into like white supremacy
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
into the part of it that's woven into the founding of America. I learned about how law enforcement in America is founded from like slave patrols, and so
Mhm.
it's violent. It wasn't peacekeeping. It was started in violence against Black and brown people, and um, things that felt really important to me. And
Mhm.
so I continue to write about that. And
Mhm.
I am provocative sometimes. I'll use curse words in my headlines, and, like,
'Cause that's who you are. It's
that's who
beautiful.
I
I
am.
love
It's like,
it.
right. And I think also that I have found um, that there are a lot of women my age who don't want to kind of deconstruct what we learned,
Mhm.
and kind of take that leap forward. And I don't know why I feel like I want to drag them kicking and screaming, but one of the bars that I can't seem to get people to go over is around sex work, and
Mm.
reframing that as um, work, right? It's that's deserving of protections of any other kind of work. I'm not saying, I'm not telling anybody they should do it. I'm not telling anyone they should be a barista at Starbucks either, right? I mean,
Mhm.
but I think that we really harm women by, and we force them to be more unsafe by conflating trafficking and work. And the difference is consent. And that's a big thing that I am writing about
Mm.
now.
Mm. I love that.
Also, I have a teenage son.
Yeah.
I'm working on him.
How do you, Amy, hold your center when you get people who don't agree with you and who are tearing your arguments to pieces? Like, what's your process for dealing with negative, with criticism?
So my thing is, I always say in my articles, I am welcome to people who disagreeing with me, but
Mhm.
don't come at me with a personal attack. That's
Right.
lazy.
Yeah.
If you disagree, come with receipts, right? Come with an argument backed up by science, by
Mhm.
um, studies, not just these like 3 or 4 people or 100 people, like longitudinal studies. Like, come
Mhm.
at me with your opinion, but backed up by something. Like, why do you believe what you
Yeah.
believe? And that's the big thing, is I really want people to think critically. And you can believe what you want, but
Mhm.
for the most part, I don't get that. I mean, anybody can make anything fit their own hypothesis if you want to cut and paste things together. But a
Yeah.
critical thinker will say, hey, something is missing here. All I see is somebody reacting. I don't see like what they were reacting to.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
so basically that's how I deal with it in my head. Is I'm just like, if you're going to be lazy and just call me names, you know, I
Yeah.
can't take you seriously.
Yeah. I resonate with that a lot. It's like some people are worth the trying to. It's like people would rather judge instead of get curious. Like they'd rather, and it's lazy. It's like judgment is just failure to understand. So instead they create separation and, say some nasty comment about you as opposed to actually like taking it upon themselves and asking, well, why do I feel this way? And could there be
Exactly.
another narrative here at play or something that I might not understand? And unfortunately, that's why I think we are so divided right now. So I think the work that you're doing is so important in terms of inviting people to think critically and celebrating you for not taking it personally because it can feel really hard when you're putting yourself out there. Um,
Well, I
so
look
Amy,
at it like I feel like if I'm not getting people who really disagree with me, I'm doing something wrong, because I really
mhm,
want to stand for something.
yeah,
And so that, invites just, people who have other opinions, who grew up in a different way. But like I said, that doesn't mean that we can't be civil with each
right.
other. And um, some people think that that's what it means. It means we disagree, so we have to hate each other. And
Yeah. Totally. So, Amy, for your book, the book will be out when this episode is published. So we'll link it in the show notes. But what is like your deepest desire in terms of what you want people to take away from your memoir?
Ooh. Well, one thing that people have told me, women who have read it, have told me that they are having better sex with their partners afterwards. And and specifically have said, I don't think that this is what you want me to take away from it. And I'm like, no, that I do. Actually, like, I'm thinking it's probably, people who are my age, maybe, over 40, whatever. And like, yeah, you can reignite that part of yourself. You don't have to disappear. And if you are lucky enough to still have the spouse and still be in love with them and all of that, then, I know how it is to turn into mommy and daddy and, hide that part. But like, here's an invitation to think out of the box, and maybe into some cosplay, get a Princess Leia in the, gold bikini or whatever, which is something that I did. And yeah, and, there's a couple of there's a maid role play. Yeah, just
So what's your favorite outfit? Just side note.
yeah, I really do. So I have to admit, in that crazy year of I had the Princess Leia thing, the bikini thing, custom made. I went on Etsy and I found someone who,
I
they
love you so
use
much.
a 3D printer to do the stuff for the top, and so it was made to fit me.
Oh
And
yeah, it's like my husband died and I'm getting the custom made gold bikini Princess Leia and I'm going to take some fucking hot photos in it.
yeah,
So good.
and have a hot afternoon with a hot man. I mean, I was like,
Permission slip.
yeah, exactly. So, I think
Okay, so people are getting better sex and what else?
right, and I
Midlife
think
women.
yeah,
Yeah.
and also, um, grief shows up in different ways for different people, and there really isn't no expectation of what it should look like and how long it should last, and that it's like a distance that the farther you get from the loss, the better you feel, because it's not like that. I can hold it better, but it's not. It's just as intense when I am feeling those feelings of loss. So
Yeah.
maybe normalize it a little bit, that some people do kind of lose their mind, especially, I think that men, probably widowers, are encouraged to, go out there, meet somebody. Um, Also, I think when wives are the ones who are sick and they know they're going to die, they will get their friends to circle around their husband, and take care of him, because there's this feeling that they can't take care of themselves. For widows, it's you're on your own, you do your own thing. And so really just kind of humanizing the experience of widowhood. And even now, there's so much judgment. It's too soon. It's not soon enough. It's too many men. It's not enough men. It's, all of these. He's not like your late husband. He's too much like him. Whatever you choose, it's not going to be right, and it doesn't matter. Maybe also give yourself a break. Don't be so hard on yourself. I think that's the thing that a lot of people who have a loss, it changes you, and we expect our capacity to be the same as it was, with that other person alive. And it's just, especially when a partner dies, it's your capacity. I felt like it was halved, but the expectation of the work I needed to do was doubled. So,
Mm-hmm.
and the judgment was, I used to
Yeah.
be able to do this. I used to, have enough energy to do that. And how much I judge myself, and that I really could have, if I can help somebody else to not be so judgmental, or just to
Mm.
know that there is no normal. It's
Right.
normal's
Yeah.
out the window.
I love that. So what I'm hearing is like sexual reclamation,
Mhm.
personal reinvention,
Mhm.
permission to move through grief in whatever way feels true to you, and so much self-love and compassion. And it really is, it's so hard. And I'm so honored that I've been able to like walk hand in hand with you alongside your journey. And I'm celebrating you so much for the release of this book. So listeners, if you're tuning in, definitely go check out her beautiful memoir, Widow in the City. And Amy, I have one final question for you, and then I want you to just uh, chime in on where else people can find you. But, here I talk about embracing death to make the most out of life. And I feel like you're such an example of how we embrace not just like the physical death of our husbands, but also just the different metaphorical deaths that you've had to go through in terms of your identity and purpose and what's next, and really allowing this loss to change you. Like, obviously, it's been horrible. And like, you've really discovered who you are, this like artist, this visionary, this writer. So, dying is a practice. But I also feel like there's potent medicine in embracing our own mortality. And so, I'm just curious, when you think about, your life from the end, like, what does it mean to you? And what does this life mean to you? And what would be like a life well lived? Your definition of that.
Oof. Yeah, I think for the foreseeable future, I'm focused on my son, and getting him, like, he's going to start high school next year, and so, you know, getting him launched into the world,
Mhm.
um, and making sure that he is a kind, good person, who doesn't know everything, right? Like that he can, yeah. So that, I guess, that's my focus. Um, but on the side, I think, oh, a life well lived, having no regrets, in that it's not that you have to do everything you ever wanted to do. It's that you have to be okay with letting some things go, and
Yeah.
saying, I'm only one person. I only have this one life. Hang gliding is not in it. Like, jumping out of a plane, that I'm not going, like, that's not me. I can't do everything. And especially when you have, a child or children to look out for, you can't always, right in the beginning, jump into whatever you want to do.
Mm.
But if I die tomorrow, I've done what I wanted. I was true to who I am.
Mm.
And
Mhm.
that is the best thing, I think, that we can do every day, because we don't know. We don't know, what is going to happen tomorrow. That said, I don't think we should live every day like it is our last, right? There's like a medium between planning for a future that is not guaranteed, and being as true to ourselves as we can
Yeah.
in the time that we have, which is the present. That's all. That's what we have.
Yeah. It's an interesting duality to hold, but I love
Mhm.
what you said about just being true to true to who you are every
Mhm.
day that you can, and holding that tension of like, I'm going to try my best to get it all done, knowing that tomorrow isn't a guarantee, but also not like turning that into scarcity or like FOMO, you know, like fear of missing out.
Right. Like leaning into, it's okay that I didn't do everything.
Hmm.
I did
Yeah.
what I wanted,
Yeah, and
And
knowing that that's gonna be different for everyone, and
exactly.
all of us have different, like, capacities, we all have different interests, and I think
Mhm.
that's the beauty of doing inner work
Mhm.
is, like, all too often we look outside of ourselves to see to for guidance on how we should be living, comparison, right? And then we end up beating ourselves up because that's not true to who we are. So,
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah.
And the truer you are to yourself, the more you might get some backlash, because there are people who are invested in you being the same as
Mhm,
who you
mhm.
were, you showing up to be what they want, what they expect. And that's not going to be comfortable for everybody.
Right.
So
Yeah,
it's,
and being there's a
navigating
whole
really.
there's a whole business built on trying to get people to be something that they're not, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyways, Amy, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I'm so excited to, yeah, for everyone to read this amazing book. And can you just tell everyone where they can find you?
Okay. You can find me at, on Substack. It's just substack.com/Amy Gabrielle. I am on Instagram as Amy Gabrielle NYC. Um, and yeah, it's Widow in the City, a memoir of hookups and of heartbreaks and hookups. So,
So
yeah.
good.
Yes, and it's wherever you want to buy books, it's there. I have it's a paperback or an ebook. Those are the two you can get.
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you so
Yay!
much, Amy. And thanks, friends, for tuning in. And we'll see you in another episode soon.